During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about how farmers get grain bins ready for harvest. You see, on farms all across the country, there are these grain bins that farmers are going to store grain in for many months. So this is tremendously important because the farmer's money is all in his grain. And if that grain goes bad, well, the farmer has no money. So that's not a good thing. And this is why it's so incredibly important for farmers to make sure that all their bins are prepared prior to harvest.
Well, the first step in getting bins ready for harvest is to empty out last year's crop. Now, this sounds a little easier than it really is sometimes because you think, well, if that's the farmer's money, he should probably get that to town then and collect the money for his work from the last year. That is very true. But some farmers also have livestock and they want to hold on to that grain as long as they can to make sure they have a feed source for their livestock. So in those cases, they kind of want to make sure that crop is just about made before they're ready to give up any of that excess feed that they have.
The thing that I look at is you have to not just get rid of the grain and the big kernels, but you have to get rid of even the little scraps, even the little inert material, the fines, the dirt, everything else. We want that grain bin on the inside completely spotless. That way you have the least amount of risk for diseases and especially insects going into the next year's grain storage.
Well, the other thing that you want to have is you want to have the grain bin cleaned up around the outside. And you think, well, wait a second, isn't the grain in the bin? Yes, it is, but some can leak out around the outside. And also, you can have grass and weeds and so forth grow up around the outside of the bin. And that makes it very easy for rodents and other problems to be creeping right outside that bin. So you want to make sure that the area around the outside of the bin is clean too. You don't want any grain that's molding or grain that's spilled, and you certainly don't want to have rodents around.
The next step is making sure all the equipment is working properly. In most grain bins, there will be an auger on the bottom of the grain bin. You got to make sure that's fine because this is your one chance per year to take a look at that. Also, when you're standing inside the grain bin, we tell farmers just take a minute, look around. No daylight should be coming into that bin. Otherwise, you've got to get that bin sealed up better. The big enemy is water. If we have more moisture in the bin, then we have a much greater chance for grain spoilage.
Once everything is ready and all the equipment is good, the bin's cleaned out, it's time to spray some insecticide. Now what we're trying to do here is prevent any bugs from starting and kill any bugs that may still be hanging around after last year's grain disappeared. So you want to spray outside the bin like I talked about with rodents and so forth. You want to make sure the bugs are killed outside the bin so they don't come in, and then spray inside the bin as well.
So the product that we're typically using is malathion inside the bin. Outside the bin, we're using a cheap pyrethroid. So it's pretty inexpensive to do this. The big thing is you want to treat inside the bin and get out of there right away. We don't want to be breathing in those fumes. So spray inside the bin, get out of there, seal that bin up, and now you're all ready to go for this year's harvest.
Well, there are a few steps that are really important for farmers to take. Cleaning out last year's grain, killing all bugs, making sure everything is perfect so when the grain they harvest this year goes into those bins, it can be stored for many months. One thing out in fields farmers try to do to get ready for this year's crop is to control weeds like our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to stop this weed later in the show.